If you do any prospecting with LinkedIn, you have got to go get set up with Surf. That's SURFE. It's a tool you can use to add new contacts to your CRM system directly from LinkedIn in seconds. I'm using it every single day. I add contacts, follow my deals, keep track of notes, and it ends up saving me a bunch of time on prospecting and outreach, which means I can spend more time moving my deals along. The data is always 100% accurate since I don't have to copy and paste all the fields over from each and every contact that I want to put in my CRM. Instead, Surf does that all automatically with just one click in about 60 seconds. The team over at Surf has put together a very special offer for fans of sales players. There's a link down in the show notes, and you can use the promo code JWSurf5. Don't forget the E at the end of Surf. That's JWSurf5 for 5% off your first year. Don't spend another minute doing things manually. Go get set up with Surf. All right, we've got a really great guest lined up for today. His name is Patrick Parker, and no, he's not Spider-Man. That's Peter Parker. Anyhow, Patrick is the CEO of SaaSpartners.io. Essentially, SaaS Partners is a portfolio of a number of different SaaS companies. And why this is an interesting conversation is Patrick's coming in from a leadership standpoint, having now scaled and grown about, I think he said about 5 different SaaS startups over the course of the last few years. And today's conversation was centered around what are some of the things that are making those SaaS companies successful. He said that it really comes down to a few formulas that are consistent across almost any SaaS business for growth and scalability. And so he gets into some more details. We talk a little bit about some of the ways that he coaches the reps across those different SaaS companies. And last but not least, it sounds like he's hiring. So definitely someone worth connecting to if you're wanting to get a foot into the SaaS industry, if you're wanting to learn a couple of the repeatables that happen across any SaaS business. You're going to love this episode. So welcome, Patrick, to the SaaS Sales Players. All right, and we're live. Patrick, welcome to SaaS Sales Players.
Jesse, thanks for having me. How is it?
It's pretty good today. Monday morning, as best as you can be on a Monday morning.
I hear that.
So I always like to get started with learning a little bit about who my guests are, how they got started in their career journeys. And the first thing I noticed about you is, are you in Louisville? Is that right?
I'm in Lexington. Yeah.
Lexington, sorry.
Lexington for about the last decade, man, which is not historically a tech hub by any means, but right. Being with University of Kentucky and a couple other great universities, they do have a lot of tech talent, and it is a great place to start a business in the United States because of cost of living and so many other economic advantages of being here in the bluegrass state.
So one of the focuses on my show is so far is I like to interview people that are not in the coastal cities, the tech hubs. I love hearing about SaaS professionals that made their SaaS careers work in places like Lexington or Indianapolis or where I am, Phoenix, Arizona, Montana. I've had a lot of great colleagues in Bozeman, Montana. So I love, I love hearing that. And tell us how you kind of got started in SaaS and sales specifically.
Yeah, so my background was in technology. I took a kind of pragmatic approach all the way back in school and looked at, hey, what are the top 25 best paying careers? And most of them were tech. I knew I didn't want to be a doctor, couldn't stay in the blood. Didn't want to spend the time to be an engineer and have to learn too much math. So I got to things that I was good at, which were design and software development. And so I made a career out of it early on. I worked for Big Four Consulting, working with some major Fortune 500 clients, doing health tech implementations primarily, and a lot of other kind of HR type system rollouts, things like that. There were some large scale projects. And it was one of those things where I realized very early on that there was just a better way to do it. Right. You know, we're delivering these $180 million projects, and we've got customers, we've got clients, we've got end users that just don't know how the systems function. There was no, human-centered approach taken to it. So they weren't included until the very end of the process. And it was like, okay, based on the requirements you gave us, which you probably didn't understand at the time, here's what we developed for you. Now try and go figure out how to use it. Right. And so I kind of looked around. I had some other friends that shared that same notion. And so we stepped away and started our own business. So we do software as a service consulting. We do development. But we started on that pure dev side, building stuff for clients, and then ultimately started a studio model, which is where we basically, whenever we have developers that are not working on active projects, we start building our own projects. And so at this point, I've founded 5 different SaaS companies.
Wow.
I'm doing over $1 million in revenue. So they're all killing it. And we found that there are some very specific tasks and activities and things of that nature that are easily replicatable from a process and from a product perspective across pretty much in any industry. And so that's the kind of fast pace that we're at now, and just kind of growing out of every end and having a lot of fun doing it.
Are they all all these businesses, are they in the same category, or would you say they vary in different categories within SaaS?
Yeah, all different industries. So I mean, we're doing everything from like communications, like enterprise communications side. We're doing stuff on the healthcare side. We're doing stuff. One of the big things that we do that probably resonates with this group, we do a lot of LinkedIn automation. So we've got a LinkedIn automation SaaS that's in market that helps with outreach and outbounding. But it's kind of all over. And of course, being here in Kentucky, we had to build something to host horse owners of the world. So we've got a software as a service platform that is geared towards racehorses. Yeah.
That is awesome. I mean, that is uniquely like the only other thing that would make that more Kentucky is something for bourbon makers or something like that.
Right, we're trying to get into it. We just need the right partner for
it. That's awesome. Shout out. What's the name of the SaaS for LinkedIn automation? I'm actually genuinely curious because I've been looking for something like that.
Sure. It's called LinkBridge, and it's getlinkbridge.com.
Okay.
And it's very different from a lot of the other ones. So we spend a lot of time. One of the biggest concerns is around security. Right. So many of those products are having issues with getting your account banned. You're literally getting banned from LinkedIn because they don't like how people are abusing those systems to basically make it extremely spammy. Right. So something that we have a huge focus on with that product in particular is around teaching the actual foundational principles of social selling. Right. So diving into someone's inbox with a cold email, that may work for 1% of your extremely high intent people. But if you're just spraying and praying, then you're probably getting terrible results, right? But if you have very specific targets and you have conversations or lead-ins that are more organic in nature, then you're going to get better responses. You're going to be able to quickly build authentic relationships. And then you're going to be able to determine, does this person even need the product that I'm trying to push, right? And I think that's a step that a lot of people just try to skip, going for that quick sale, right? So, we have a big emphasis on actually teaching people the right way to do it. So we always say, in addition to our product, you're also going to walk away with the masters in LinkedIn, because we're actually going to teach you how to use the platform to benefit from it.
That's really cool. That was my first question, because I've used a few widgets in the past for LinkedIn sourcing and building my prospecting lists, but I've always danced with am I going to get my account banned? I have, 10,000 connections on LinkedIn at this point and a bunch of saved leads. And this is like, it's a moneymaker, right? It's part of how I make my living, is using LinkedIn as a seller. And I've always been a little bit nervous about, pardon me, using some of those tools that risk getting your account locked down or something from LinkedIn. So that's really cool to hear that. And I love the enablement component too. It's not just a software tool. It's how to use it, how to implement it, how to make it successful on the prospecting front. So it's not just a widget. It's a full sort of platform with enablement involved. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's a big piece of it, right? Is customer success, right? We spend so much time building that into not only the product, but all the processes around it as well. And that's why, like, if you look at across our portfolio of client products and even our own portfolio of SaaS companies, like, they all do well because we're so focused, we're obsessed with customer success, right? So making sure that our customers actually receive that value proposition that they're paying for. Right. I mean, we have net negative churn literally across the board for that reason. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So walk me through, being in Lexington. I don't know how many VCs or tech VCs are out in the area. If it's anything like my city, there's not very many. How did you guys, if you guys bootstrap these businesses, are they funded? Talk to us a little bit about how someone like yourself can go out and start several SaaS companies and grow those to, $1 million+ in ARR.
That's the beautiful thing. And so what I always tell people is, so we're a software development company first, right? And so we grew, literally started with me and 3 other guys. We were software architects and engineers. We started working on client projects.
Mm-hmm.
And then we picked up a couple of other big projects that basically helped us pay for everything else we wanted to do. So the margins in development are really strong. But it's one of those things where as the team grew and we were waiting, or had projects in the pipeline that were waiting to close, we had ideas, and we basically saw a couple of needs that each of our clients had, right? May not be something they were building in their platform, but something that was tangential to, kind of what their mission was, or a tool that they needed in order to kind of keep moving things forward. And so we built the first couple with that in mind. And so we basically just took developers that I'm already paying a salary that weren't working on a project. Like, instead of just letting that go to waste, let's actually start building our own stuff, which that had always been my intention, right? Is to bootstrap, to find the revenue, or find the margins in there so that we could actually invest in some of that stuff and then continue to scale it out. And I mean, the biggest thing about that is, with the approach that we take, where we literally have experts from, kind of every functional and every functional domain within SaaS, we have people that can quickly scale up teams. And so what happens is, a lot of times I'll have, like, my VP of sales will go start up a new business, right?
Oh,
or
wow.
I'll have, like, my VP of marketing that is helping across multiple companies, and then ultimately we'll hire into it. So it's something where, yeah, we always love to promote from within. So we started, like I said, with 4. We've got 35 here in the States. We opened up a new headquarters last year in India, and now we've got almost 200 developers sitting out in India banging away too. So, I think that's a big competitive advantage for us, is anytime we want to build something, it's very, very quick to build and very inexpensive for us too. So, that's how we're able to do it so quickly and at the scale that we're playing at now.
That's a really great economy of scale to be able to just sort of turn a key and start another one, because you've already got the trained resources and the ability to do it. Yeah. That's a great model. Tell us a little bit. You mentioned earlier that you've observed that there's several, or maybe you said 5 specifically repeatable actions that kind of are consistent across every SaaS. Walk us through what a couple of those repeatable motions are in building out a SaaS startup.
Sure. Yeah. And I think the first one, obviously, from just the basic startup activities around organizing, around incorporation, around all the documentations, all the kind of multitude of steps that have to be taken just to become a company in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. And now there's a bunch of great services out there that cut that timeline, or that help facilitate all of that. So, like firstbase.io is a great one for literally anyone that wants to start a business anywhere in the country. You can go to somewhere like Firstbase, and they basically have a checklist, right? So before they actually systematized that and built it out in SaaS, that's a process that we had end to end. It's like, okay, we want to start a new company. Here's what we need to do, right? Yeah. Same thing from a product perspective. You talk about how to define your initial MVP, right? Mm-hmm. What features to actually include. A lot of people tend to go over the top, and they tend to add more features than they need. Well, the problem is they haven't validated whether the market actually wants the initial kind of base configuration or base MVP, and if that's something that's even sellable. So they go all out and they build a product before even determining, is this a sellable product? Is this a scalable product? Right. Can I build out processes to actually continue to drive revenue into the foreseeable future, right? And so we're very big on focusing on what that MVP is, understanding the value of it, understanding how to package it up, and to bundle it and make it available for sale. So I think that's the second one. Once you have a product, and we'll get to that in a minute, because I know that's what your audience wants to hear about. But so after that, we focus on customer success. We look at what the onboarding process looks like, because if you're going to have people churn, most of them are either going to be somewhere within that onboarding process, or it's going to be because of the lack of customer success and support going forward. So third thing is always customer success. What does our onboarding look like? How can we ensure that the clients that we work so hard to acquire actually get the value that we have sold them on in the first place, right? If long as we can keep those customers, which are cheaper to acquire than new customers, then we're in great shape, right? So you've got those three things. And then the next thing is marketing. So really understanding what audience you're marketing to, nailing those ICPs, and then really focusing on how to create scalable go-to-market strategies. So what channels are you using? What audiences are you targeting? How are you segmenting your different lists? And then what mediums or touch points do you have? Creating content, around all different stages of the funnel. And then last is sales, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't say sales is last because usually we're doing a lot of this stuff in parallel. Sure. But in order for the sales team to be successful, we need to be able to actually generate leads, right? So we need to have a combination of lead generation and demand generation. We're looking at a number of different ways. So you've got everything from organic to paid social to paid ads, display, whatever that may look like, all in the name of creating those at-bats that our sales folks so much love, right? And then we also supplement that with tools like we have with LinkBridge as well, to where we're taking a lot of that SDR work and that manual outreach through LinkedIn and across some other channels as well through our email marketing, and just making sure that those people have full pipelines, that they're actually getting opportunities to close deal and grow revenues. And then we're actually providing them with the training that they need in the event that we're scaling up new teams, and the oversight that they need in the form of a mentor, a senior leader somewhere on the sales team that can give them feedback, right? So people that are reviewing those Zoom calls to see, hey, you shouldn't have said this. You should have said this instead, right?
Yeah.
So just to get some coaching, right? Because there's so many things that, especially as a new salesperson, even words, you don't realize how strong and how negative some of the connotations for different words are, right? And so, like the difference between contract. If I say I'm going to send you a contract versus an agreement, there's things like that have little nuances, but that can literally make or break a deal. So doing a lot of education around that, doing a lot of coaching, and helping our salespeople improve. And then the other thing is, I'm a big believer in not just group quotas, which personally I don't love. It's great for team performance, but it's detrimental to your high performers, right? So we usually do a mix of individual plus group incentives. That way we're not punishing the high performers for underperforming teammates. I've seen so many organizations lose great salespeople because they hadn't structured their compensation plans the right way. And those are really the 5 things.
Yeah. What's a group quota? I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that. Is that
so usually you have a team quota, right? So if your team, for example, say your team vol used to add 10,000 of new monthly recurring revenue within a month, right? And if the team hits that quota, they all get a bonus.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so most businesses, especially larger SaaS companies, they're all going to structure it from a team perspective. So usually you have a number of team members, and then as you're going in with those team members, it's kind of your job to bring those people up. You have that group that's under you that you're managing. Your team hits, everybody gets paid. They don't hit, nobody gets paid in a lot of cases. And that's the thing. It's like, you can't neglect an individual effort. If somebody sold 8,000 in MRR and your other 3 team members didn't close a deal, you can't punish the one person that performed, right? And that's the kind of the problem I have with it. So a lot of that is how you're structuring that comp plan to make sure that you're taking care of your high performers, and then also rewarding group efforts too.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't think I've had that kind of quota. It's always been individual based. I mean, there's always been sort of the camaraderie of like, let's get the team to the team number, but yeah, I think that model defies sort of Pareto's law, which is, 20% of the reps are going to produce 80% of the results.
100%.
So yeah, that's super interesting.
It's something you see with like a lot, like HubSpot does it. And it's one that kills me, because we do a ton of business with HubSpot. And it's the same thing that we see with a lot of their reps. They'll call at the end of the month. They're like, hey, do you know anybody else? Because my team's not going to hit. They're like, I've got 80% of the revenue. And it's the same thing. It's like, man, they're just trying to drag the other people across the line. But yeah, there's a bunch of companies out there, especially the
really
ARR plus, that are doing it that way.
I did not realize that. That's maybe something to avoid for the listeners, or at least ask the question during the interview, because I'm a big fan of, you eat what you kill.
100%.
Sales is that equalizer, right? It's if you're really, really good at it, you should be compensated for your efforts and skill set and all that stuff. So I wasn't familiar with that, but glad to get educated on something like that. So we talked a little bit, you talked a little bit about how you coach your sales reps and listening in. What are some of the things that you've observed, especially lately, last 6 months, last couple of quarters, that are trends that are not good trends, maybe that you've heard, language working its way into your reps pitches, or habits or something like that you've observed that, you're quickly trying to coach out?
The biggest thing that I really hate, and this is the difference that experience brings. I think this is something that you'll agree with is, I think in the beginning, a lot of reps, especially new reps, have a tendency to do a product tour, right? Where they want to show you all the great features, but they're not really selling you anything, right? They're not actually connecting with what those pain points are. They're not actually diagnosing potential issues in your business and trying to help you see the investment in their product and the return that you could expect to get, right? So I see a lot of product tours, and I think that's the thing that the craziest, because I know whenever we're looking at new SaaS platforms, right, to solve a problem, and I jump on with a rep that wants to tell me everything about it, it's like, okay, I have very specific questions. You haven't asked me anything about my business, about, how we run things, to see if this would work. It's like, and I think it does a big disservice to the company specifically, because the whole reason that you're in this business is to solve a problem with your product, right? You have a product or a service that you're looking to sell. And in order to sell that service and make it become valuable, you have to be able to clearly communicate that value prop. And so if you're just talking the entire time instead of listening, which new reps have a tendency to do, it's like, hey, let me tell you everything under the sun, and hopefully something that I'm going to tell you somewhere in this demo connects with something that you need, and you'll just like intuitively know that this is for you, rather than, hey, tell me about your business. Tell me the problems that you have. Why are you looking at this product today? Are there certain things that you're hoping to solve within your business that led you to come to us? Things like that, to understand, like, let them lead the conversation, and then look for opportunities to provide that value, right? And I think that's just something that comes with experience in most cases. Sometimes we'll definitely see that if we have people coming in from other industries that are just maybe new to SaaS, then you'll get some really strong folks that have good habits. But a lot of times we're getting folks that are new, or we're inheriting or hiring people that have been elsewhere that have some bad habits built in. And in that case, it's just, hey, forget I know you did great. You closed some incredible volumes over here, but let's forget about a lot of retrain what you learned up to this point, right? Let's retract it and let's go again.
No, that's a huge problem that I see also. And it's frankly something that I still battle with, even as long as I've been in my career. I still, everyone has that tendency to just go default to talking about their product or themselves or whatever it is, and not stepping back and saying, there's a reason this call is happening. And it's not because everyone wants to hear every bell and whistle that our software has. It's about, some business problem that we need to figure out if there's alignment, right? And I think that's the key to solving for that, is learning how to think like a business person. I talk about this a lot on my show. How do you as a seller think about things like a business person and not just a salesperson? And a business person thinks about the operation, right? And the solution, not just, the solution in terms of how relative to the problem is what I'm getting at here. Kind of like what you said, is once you understand those things and you spend more time listening than talking, that absolutely sort of unlocks that ability to then focus the sale on how to solve the problem, and not just, hey, we have these 10 awesome features that no one else has. Hey, our competitor sucks, and that's why you should go with us. So I think I absolutely agree. And glad to get your insights on that.
I think the other big piece is too that, consumer behavior has changed so much just because of the availability of information, right? So if you do have someone that has booked a call with you, chances are they've already done research. They've already consumed several pieces of content. If your marketing team's any good, then they've already done some some self-learning or self-education around what's available, or at a minimum, what your product does. And if they have free trials, they may have even gone there, right? So, that's where some of those great CRMs come into place that tell you kind of the life of that lead, and you can see where they're at. It's amazing. I've had so many conversations with some of our younger sales folks, and it's like, hey, did you go back through and see what they've actually looked at? I mean, you got on the call with them, how prepared were you? Things like that. So, there's a lot that you can do to prepare, especially in the traditional marketing stacks that they have now. They're just so full of information and track things everywhere. It's like, why not leverage that to formulate your strategy before a call? It's going to take your win rate, up double-digit percentages just by being prepared. So it's the same thing about looking up another company, right? Having a foundational understanding of what they do, what your client does before you ever get on the phone with them. So it's all the prep work that, you're familiar with, but, a lot of new reps, especially if they're listening, they're trying to understand, it's not always a habit that they have formed the right way.
You mentioned something really interesting. I'm very long on content. I think content is key to effective selling, especially as time goes on. The more we move into a world where, I think you referenced it, that most buyers have already, they've already gone and looked into a SaaS solution before they ever land in the lead inbox, right? So how did you build, across the several companies that you have, how did you build sort of a content engine such that, that can be used to generate leads and interest and awareness and those kind of things? I'm really curious. And then what, follow up to that, after you tell us about how you built it, what can an individual rep do to maximize content their company's creating, or create their own if their company's not creating any content?
Sure. And if that's another thing that I'd look for is a red flag, right? If you're looking at or have a job offer from a company that's not producing any content, that's a red flag to me, because, at a minimum, you need to create content for every different level of the buyer journey, right? So I need to have content that speaks to what the problem is. So the first one, problem aware, right? That's the first thing. So, you have a prospective client become aware that there is a problem in their business, right? A lot of times this is not something that your company has any involvement in. It's something it's a realization that they have within their day-to-day, right? So creating content to make people aware of that problem. And then from there, solution aware. What's the solution? Oh, there's software that can streamline all of this, right? Or there's a product or service that can solve this problem that you're having within your business. So creating content there. And then moving through to product aware. Oh, hey, this product actually solves this problem. Here's some of the great case studies we have. Here's some of the testimonials from clients that have had success on our platform. And then going through that, pricing aware. Obviously, you have stuff around your pricing, the way that you bundle services, how you charge your, and a lot of people have at this point what their competitors' costs are, just for transparency, because people are going to look it up anyways, right? As soon as they find out that there's a company like you, they're going to see, okay, there's probably a couple of them, right? And then they're going to price shop. So, then it's positioning of looking at, hey, the 3 best softwares in this category, class, industry, et cetera, are these 3, and how you position yourself within those articles, why it's better, things of that nature, and how you kind of talk bad about your competitors on the fly with that a lot of times, or what they don't do. You make sure you really highlight what they don't do well. And then the last thing is when people are ready to buy, right? And so that's just creating all kinds of kind of bottom of a funnel conversion style content that's going to get those people, compel those people to actually take action. And so once you really understand what that buyer journey looks like and where those different audiences come from, then it's just a matter of promotion. I mean, that's really the biggest piece. Like, you don't have to create a ton of unique and individual content. It's really easy to repurpose content for different intent and different stages of the funnel and different marketing channels. So once you have a framework around that, for creating and promoting that content, because the promotion of that content is twice as important as the actual creation of it, right? A lot of people are like, it's really hard to create good content. It's like, no, it's really hard to effectively promote good content. So the rule of thumb is you should always spend literally 10 times more effort promoting the content than you should creating it. And so, but once you have that framework in place, though, it becomes really easy to repeat. The workflows get really easy. And so you can literally become a content powerhouse in a matter of weeks and just create. I mean, literally, like we create like 40 to 60 pieces of content in an hour.
Wow.
And it's an easy thing to do, but we're so dialed in and focused on what we're doing because we've already spent the time, laid the groundwork, and have that foundation there that, you know, anything we want to do and scale, it's portable. We can pick it up, take it to another SaaS company or anything like that. Right. But again, all those things, they all play back into sales, because if your company's creating really good content, then you're going to be driving some really good organic leads as well. Right. So those are all things that keep all the marketing metrics. I mean, it literally impacts everything. And so that's the thing that people are trying to focus on now is you look at things like dark social and how that plays into all the things that you can't capture on social media, but all of the relevancy it has to social selling and everything else today. Right. So, I mean, you literally get that trickle down effect across every business function.
Yeah. To your comment about, you know, it's less about the creation and more about the promotion. Something I'll just share what I do as an individual contributor for anyone out there who's scratching their head wondering, okay, maybe my company's not producing enough content for me to use in my prospecting. An easy way to get started is to go and look at trade publications, blogs, industry specific content, and share that with your own hot take on it. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. It's curating, you know, the Harvard Business Review is an example of one that I use a lot. Find an article in the Harvard Business Review that's relevant to your buyers, and then summarize your favorite part of the article in 1 or 2 sentences, post it on LinkedIn, tweet it, put it on Facebook if that's where your audience is. And that's it. That's curating content. You do that a couple of times, then you're going to start looking for ways to to kind of curate content that your company's making, to create your own thought leadership. And then that snowball starts rolling, and it's super powerful. I mean, this is a good conversation because I think there's still not enough individual contributors maximizing content. And to your earlier point too, using the historicals, right? All of the CRMs today typically have, the journey of what a prospect has read and what kind of content they've downloaded from your site. If you're not using that as data points going into your first conversation with a prospect, you're missing out on an opportunity to reference something relevant to them that they obviously sought out on their own, and then tie that into your value as a SaaS company, as a seller. So I think that was a really, really awesome point to make, and appreciate you sharing that about content.
I think there's 2 other great things that just to add to that, what you were saying. And one, I know you'll agree on, and you didn't get to 10,000 folks on LinkedIn without doing it, but is consistency, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just post content once or twice and expect people to go. You've got to be consistent in your efforts. I think that's one big thing that often gets overlooked. If you just stay consistent, you'll see growth. The other big thing that I think becomes daunting to a lot of people, that as you continue and as you start producing, it's like, oh gosh, like this takes time. This takes work. It does. Right. Yeah. People have very short-term memories. So once you have created good content over the course of 3 months, none of your new people will have seen that content, right? Most of your old people will have forgotten it. So you can literally look back at some of the top posts that you had in terms of engagement or in terms of views, quickly repurpose that stuff and publish it all over again. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff is, you know, how can I recycle this? How can I take the themes that resonate well with my audience, and how can I kind of double down on those efforts? Because people won't remember. People will just see what they see. They see so much, they consume so many pieces of content in a day that, you know, the good ones stand out, and you'll get a little bit more attention for it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it sounds so logical hearing it and hearing you say that. But yeah, a lot of people are hesitant to do that because, oh no, I posted about that 6 months ago. Well, who cares? I mean, it's 6 months later, everything's changed. No one remembers. And if it was good 6 months ago and it got a lot of traction, it will still continue to get a lot of traction if it's an interesting topic. Awesome. Well, I know we're coming up here on time. I would love to, just in the last sort of 2 minutes, any final thoughts on that might help some of the individual sellers out there who are in SaaS, who want to overachieve in SaaS sales. And then after that, I want you to tell us how we can get in touch with you or your businesses.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is spend time on training, spend time understanding psychology. I think that there's so many people that come into sales without understanding consumer behavior, without understanding psychology, right? If you can understand why someone is looking to buy in the first place, your rates are going to go up. If you can understand what's driving those economic decisions, they go up. Right. So you look at all the different reasons why people buy. And as soon as you learn to speak in a language that actually resonates with them, you're going to be much more successful in closing deals. Right. That's that's kind of the soft skill side of it. Right. The hard skill side, which is really, should be common sense and should be the way that it's taught, is using the tools that are available to you to actually understand as much of the picture as you can before you ever step on a call. I mean, so much of it is just preparation. And as a founder who has led sales team, I was founder led sales for the first several years of my SaaS companies. And so we had scaled to a point where I really was extremely connected with our ICPs. I understood the problems and the potential solutions. I understood the market really well. And that's when I started scaling out a sales team. Right. And I've done this multiple times with multiple different companies now. But I think that's the biggest thing is you have to take a data-driven approach. You have to look at the metrics. You have to look at the information that you have, and you have to be prepared. There's nothing worse than getting on a call and trying to tell somebody everything under the sun. I mean, you should be doing listening more than talking. You should be understanding what the problems are, and you should be asking questions that actually evoke responses. The best types of responses that you're going to get are emotional responses. People that say, I'm really struggling. I'm really having a hard time with this. But being able to ask questions to actually elicit that information from them so that you have an opportunity to actually sell, right? And then it's not selling at that point. Then it's just providing value. And you're having a conversation about, okay, here are the details of this deal we're getting ready to close versus, trying to have that conversation and make a hard sale. So I think that's it. We're always hiring. We're always building with us. Cool. So you can get in touch with me at info or hello at saaspartners.io, SaaS partners.io. But we build a lot of great products. And if you come with bad habits, that's okay. We'll fix them.
That's awesome. I know my listeners will love to hear that. Great opportunity to cut your teeth on the SaaS industry and learn from, someone who's scaled lots of SaaS companies. Yeah. Patrick, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for coming on, sharing your story, sharing some of your wisdom with the audience, the listeners here. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Jesse. Hey, great to be here and great to bring a good message of how to improve your selling abilities to your audience. So great conversation. Thanks.
I've got a secret weapon for you that's going to skyrocket your sales without the unnecessary headaches that come along with using one of the big player CRM systems. That secret weapon is Close CRM. Now, let's face it. We've all been there. We've used a clunky, confusing system that kind of makes you want to throw your laptop out the window. Well, fear not. Close is here to save your time, money, and sanity. Close has all of the powerful sales tools you need, minus the drama, to manage your leads, track your deals, and crush your targets effortlessly. It has calling, emailing, SMS, multi-channel sequences, and it even has meeting tracking built right in. It's easy to set up and implement. You can stop screwing around with CRMs that aren't built for you and start selling and managing customers today. You can start a free trial using the link in the show notes, special for SSP fans.